Hello there, this is Giana Van Nice and Dan Van Nice from Blue Dog Farms, and we wanted to make a short video just to tell you a little bit about who we are, but to really focus in on how to buy bulk beef directly from the farmer. And so just a little bit about us. We've been farming Blue Dog Farm since 2010, but Dan has been a farmer his entire life. I work in agriculture and grew up in an agricultural community, and so that's who we are. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. We have 5 kids, all home currently, and 4 dogs sitting here in the kitchen with us, and a baby goat. So we will be interrupted probably during this video.
More than once.
Yeah, once if we're lucky, but probably more than that. Anyway, that's who we are. What we do, we raise all grass-fed and grass-finished beef. That means we use pasture management and do rotational grazing for all of our beef. We don't use grain or silage at all. And what that does is it makes the beef have an amazing flavor. It's what we like the best, which is why we do it. And it's extremely lean. We also raise all pasture-raised, non-GMO fed chicken. And we have an annual chicken CSA that you can sign up for, usually in the winter months. And we raise chicken only on pasture, so they're available for 6 months in the spring and summer and start of fall. We also do all pasture-raised, non-GMO fed pork, usually once a year. We do pasture-raised, non-GMO fed turkey for Thanksgiving turkeys. And we breed and sell goats. Our daughter does that through her business. So that's what we do, and a little bit about who we are. Why we do what we do it because we love it. Farming is a labor of love and a profession of hope, and we just love feeding our community and teaching people how to buy locally grown meats, and also helping people understand where their food comes from. It doesn't come from the grocery store. It comes from people like us who raise animals. So I'll get off my soapbox here for a minute. You hear the bleeding goat? Yeah.
Bleating, not bleeding.
He's not bleeding.
He's not bleeding.
He's bleating. He was born yesterday, literally. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to buy bulk beef directly from the farmer. And in a minute here, Dan's going to go through and kind of talk through the process. But the way it works for us is we take deposits for beef several months in advance usually. We get people who, when they pick up their beef for the year, they put in their deposit for the next year at that month, and that's totally fine. The deposit reserves your quarter, half, or whole beef for that month. And then about a month before your beef goes in, you get a phone call from Dan. And he walks you through all the steps of what kind of steaks you want, roast, all that. And we're going to actually do that for you on this video. And then about a month after that's done, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, like about a month, you get your beef back, and you'll get an email that'll say, hey, your beef's ready, come pick it up at the farm. You'll owe a price per pound, less your deposit, and plus your butcher fees. So whatever the price per pound was when you put in your deposit, you're locked in at that price. So no matter if the price goes up, you're locked in for whenever you put in your deposit. You get your beef back. It'll be in vacuum sealed packages, really nicely done. And you can take it home and eat on it all year, put it in the freezer, and it's great. So we're going to go through it. Did I miss anything first, Dan? All right. So let's say, for example, I just put in a deposit several months ago for a half beef. And so it's my time now to get to talk to Dan about picking my cuts.
All right. So, Mrs. Van Nice, you're going to order a half a beef.
Yes.
And so
Very
we're getting ready to cut up your beef, so I need some information. How thick do you like your steaks?
Oh, well, what did most people get?
Well, if you buy steaks from us as an individual cut out of our store, then you would get 1-inch steaks. But the most common thickness of steaks is 3/4 of an inch.
I got a lot of big kids at home, and steaks seem to go pretty quick. I'll take a 3/4 inch cut.
Okay, 3/4 it is. And how big a roast do you like? 2 to 3 pounds, 3 to 4 pounds?
Yeah, I like 2 to 3 pound roast, I think.
2 to 3 pounds it is. And is 1 pound ground beef packages okay?
Yes, I like the flexibility of being able to make more or less.
That's what most people pick. Some people prefer the 2 pound, but most people pick the 1 pound. And at this time you could order patties, but bear in mind, if the butcher is making hamburger patties for you, it's going to add to your butcher fee.
Right. Anytime you ask the butcher to do extra work for you, it's going to cost more. And I personally like to make my own patties.
Have you ever had our meaty soup bones?
No. Daniel, what are those?
Funny you should ask. Meaty soup bones are a cut that's down low on the leg, may also be called a shank steak. It's got a big bone in the middle with a ring of meat around it. Good in soups and stews. You could even use it as roast if it's just you. But would you like some of those?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Meaty soup bones it is. This butcher calls it shin meat. Do you want a lot of roasts or just a few roasts?
Well, I think I want just a few roasts this time.
Okay. Some people like every roast they can get. Some people don't want any roasts. Either one is just fine. If you don't take it as a roast, it becomes ground beef. There are a few roasts that you could opt into having steaks instead. So, Mrs. Van Nuys, do you want a lot of roasts or just a few roasts?
I'll take just a few this time, Dan.
Okay. Do you know which roast you want?
Well, I of course want the chuck roast. So I think everybody, I'll pause here and just say, I think everybody knows the chuck roast. And
it's a good roast.
It is a really good roast. But what I'll say is all the roasts are really good roasts. You don't just have to, if you like roasts, get more roasts. And they don't have to be chuck roasts. All of them are delicious. So, but yeah, I'd like some chuck roast. Dan?
Okay. You want all the chuck roast you can get?
Yes, I'll take all the chuck roast.
All the chuck roast for Mrs. Van Nuys. Do you want a shoulder roast?
What can that be? Does that just get ground if I don't get a roast?
That can be ground beef. One common question that I get is what happens if I don't choose roast? Mm-hmm. And that is it becomes ground beef. You don't lose the meat. It just becomes something else. In this case, ground beef.
I'll take the ground beef, Dan.
All right, let's grind the shoulder roast. Since you're getting a half a cow, and this is true for half a cow or a whole cow, you can get a brisket. If you're getting a quarter, you cannot. The butcher won't separate that brisket. So since you're getting a half a cow, do you want a brisket?
I absolutely want a brisket.
Okay, brisket for you. Ribeyes, you can make those into steaks or a roast.
I would like to make them into steaks, Dan.
Okay, so the rib steaks are the bone-in, and the boneless are called Delmonico's. Or if you're really fancy, since you're getting a half, you can make it a standing rib roast. But you have to get a half a cow to get a standing rib roast. You can't do that if you're getting a quarter.
Well, I don't need a standing rib roast, but the Delmonico steak is a fabulous steak, and it doesn't have the bone in it, and so I'll go with the Delmonicos.
Okay, boneless it is. Since you're getting a half a cow, you can get short ribs if you like. If you're getting a quarter cow and you ask for short ribs, you would literally get 3 ribs. So I don't even offer that when we're doing a quarter cow. But since you're getting a half a cow, you can get short ribs if you like.
No, thank you. Grind them up.
All right, we'll grind the short ribs. Now, would you rather have bone-in, T-bone, porterhouse, and sirloin, or boneless New York strip, filet, and sirloin?
I will have the second option.
The boneless.
Yes.
Okay. Now, bear in mind, if you were to order a quarter cow, that whoever you're sharing this half with will have to have that same selection. So if whoever ordered before you wanted the bone in, and I'm getting your cuts later, and that's already been chosen, you maybe have to get the bone in. The other thing is the thickness of the steaks all have to be the same for the half. So if you wanted an 1.5-inch steak and somebody else wanted a 1/2-inch steak, that's not going to work. It's good if on the same half. It's got to be all the same thickness steak, and all the same what we call the premium steaks have to be the same per half. But you're ordering a half and not a quarter, so you can have the boneless New York strip and filet. You may also ask, why don't I get the filet in option number 1 with the bone in? And that is because the filet is consumed in the porterhouse. So it's not that you lose the filet, it's just in the porterhouse steak instead. Top round. You can make that into a roast, which is called London broil, round steak, or you can grind it.
I think I'll go with the London broil on that one.
Okay, London broil it is. And the bottom round, you could do the same. You can either make it a roast, which would be called a rump roast, steaks, round steaks, or you can grind it.
I'm going to make that into a steak.
All right, let's make it into round steaks. I have round. You can make that into a roast, or you can grind it.
I gotta say, the eye around is a really interesting roast. And the people who like it, they get really excited about it. It almost looks like pork when it's cooked. It's very light colored. I think I'm gonna get the eye around roast, Dan.
All right, eye around roast for you it is. Sirloin tip, you can make that into roast, or you can make that into steaks.
I want to make that one into steaks.
Good choice, because the sirloin tip is an excellent cut of meat.
It is delicious.
Now, on each half a cow, there's a flank steak and a skirt steak. And if you don't know what those are used for, if you go to a restaurant and get the sizzling fajita thing that comes out on the cast iron plate that's sizzling, they either use a flank steak or a skirt steak for that, usually skirt steak. There's only one each per half, so if you're ordering a quarter, you can only get one or the other, but since you're getting a half, you can get them both if you like.
Yeah, I definitely want to get both of them. I'm a big fan of fajitas, and I also like to use those steaks to make like an Asian stir fry.
Oh, yes.
They're really good for that too. So I'll have both the skirt and the flank.
All right, skirt and flank for you it is. And do you want any organ meats? Liver, heart, tongue, tail.
Yeah. So I've only recently really begun to understand and read up about the health benefits of organ meats. And if it's something that interests you, I highly recommend that you look into it. I would take all the organ meats on this order, understanding that there's only one heart per cow, right? So, but if I can get all of it, I would take all of it.
Yes, so I run into that issue sometimes, but not often, where there's a lot of people that want organ meats and only so many organs to go around. But usually, if somebody wants organ meats, I can make that happen. But bear in mind, I can't always. Now, do you want to save the bones?
Absolutely. So, dogs. Absolutely, I want to save the bones. The bones, what you do with those is you put them in the oven, you roast them for a little bit, and then you plop them in a crock pot or a roasting pan, and you make your bone broth. And bone broth is very healthy, but it's also just really good for you. And you can use it all winter long if you can it to make all kinds of soups and stews and whatnot. So yes, I absolutely want to keep some of the bones.
All right. Well, we hope this answered most of your questions, if not all of your questions. One thing I've learned since I've started selling beef to the public is that most people have an unnatural fear of talking to a butcher. I am not a butcher, so you don't have to have that fear when we talk about your cuts. And it's very easy, very simple, very quick. And hopefully this helped answer some of your questions.
Yeah, I also want to add in that I get asked a lot if we butcher ourselves for beef. And the answer is no. Could we do it? Yeah, it wouldn't be pretty. Maybe
it wouldn't be USDA inspected.
Zombie apocalypse. Could we do it? Yeah, we could figure it out. But at the end of the day, a butcher is truly like a combination of art and science. And so we partner with the USDA butcher. They're fabulous. They have the skills, the USDA certifications, the tools, the experience, and they do all that work. And it comes back to us vacuum packaged and sealed and nice. And so we'll feel very lucky we have a good USDA butcher for that. And again, echo what Daniel said. It's super easy. It's not scary. We're here to help you. This is what we enjoy doing. This is our passion. So if you have any questions along the way, or if you have questions after watching this video, please feel free to reach out to us. Our email is bluedogfarmspa@gmail.com. You could call Daniel directly. His number is 717-814-2744. We're happy to answer your questions along the way. And we thank you for trusting us to grow your food. It's very humbling to get to do this work.
So this is Dan and Giana from Blue Dog Farms, and you have a blessed day. So, do you know which roast you would like?
Well, my favorite roast is the chuck roast. One of the dogs is getting water. So chuck roast.
Just stop. Yeah, just stop. The dog is literally getting a drink of water. Or as we like to call her, the cow, because she's giant.
We're thirsty.
She is. She's a Great Pyrenees. She should be out in the field guarding animals, but she started having seizures, so she's in the kitchen.
Everybody's
interrupting
in the
our
kitchen.
video.
Everybody's in the kitchen.
Okay, Sansa, really?
She's very thirsty, Daddy. What were we talking about?
Roast. We're talking about roasts. Oh, this is gonna take forever.
Come here, Sansa. Come here. Come here. Okay, let's go back to roast. She wants to be in the video too.
Okay, you can be in the video too. So, Mrs. Van Ice, would you like a lot of roasts or just a few roasts?
I think just a few this time, Dan.
Okay, let's see how that goes.
He knows me too well.
Chuck roast.
I just needed to pause so you could cut it because you need to look at the camera and you look really angry. Can you smile a little bit? Well, let's look angry at the camera together.
Okay.
You gotta.
Not angry.
I know, but you gotta look at the camera.
I've been looking at the camera.
And you gotta
but
smile.
I'm looking at the sheet down
And you
here.
gotta smile too. Okay.
Okay.
Action. What?
Top round. You're just testing my editing skills.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
You can do it. That it was showing something.
Sansa,
I wonder if you could see that.
did you want to be in the video?
So did Indigo. She wouldn't leave me alone either.
Hey, were you trying to be in the video? You can be in the video. Oh, look, there's Indigo, your friend. Yeah.